Now, to continue the debate over President Trump's most recent statements regarding how American Jews are disloyal when voting for the Democrats, we are joined by Elana Sztokman, the Vice Chair for Media and Policy at Democrats Abroad Israel, Sheldon Schorer, attorney and former chairman of the Democratic Party in Israel, Simcha Rothman, Israeli attorney and legal advisor to the Israeli Movement for Governability and Democracy, or Meshilut, and finally, Dr. Martin Sherman, the founder and executive director of the Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you all so much for coming in today. It's really a pleasure to have you. And actually, it's a pleasure. Thank you again. And actually, I'll start with you, Elana. Let's just start with the comments. Do you believe that they were racist, or were they even a little bit fair? How would you break down President Trump's comments?
Donald Trump is trying to divide the Jewish people. He's trying to set Jews against Jews, and he's enabling and allowing certain Jews to point the finger at other Jews and say, you're not Jewish enough. And that, of course, leads to other troubling trends, such as non-Jews and those who do lean towards anti-Semitism to say, aha, disloyal, and all those anti-Semitic tropes that we know so well. So he's doing some really dangerous things. We know where this leads to. We know where this using Israel as a wedge issue to divide Jews against Jews leads to. And this is what Donald Trump is so good at. This is his modus operandi, is to get people to hate entire groups of people and to use fear and to incite. That is what he does throughout groups in order to, get votes, to rouse his base. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Jews who are falling for it, and that really worries me. It worries me that there are a lot of Jews who are falling for this and you're saying, yes, those Democrats, you see? And it's like, I'm a Democrat. I support Israel. I live in Israel. My kids serve in the army. I pay taxes here. I've devoted my entire life to Zionism. And the idea that, some Jews in America are going to be pointing at me and saying, aha, you see, you're a self-hating Jew and you don't love Israel enough, that is really troubling.
Counterpoint, just to challenge you on that a little bit, though, is that not really a very similar tactic to what BDS and people on the left like Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib employ when they say, if you're a Zionist, then you're anti whatever it is, or how they are dividing the public as well.
Okay, so first of all, you can't compare two freshman congresswomen to the platform of the president. The platform of the president has a lot of power. He has to use that responsibly. Two freshman congresswomen, they don't represent the platform of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has been clear. The Democratic Party,
the whole party's behind them.
They are behind them as colleagues, supporting them as colleagues, free to express what they need to express. But the Democratic Party is clear. The Democratic Party is clear. Hang on, let me finish my sentence, please. The Democratic Party is clear and has always been clear in its support of Israel. It has always supported a two-state solution. It does not support DBS. The Democratic Party is very clearly anti-BDS.
All right, Dr. Sherman.
Well, I think it makes a big difference what Trump meant when he said they're disloyal. Are they disloyal to themselves, or are they disloyal to Israel, or are they disloyal to America? And whilst I acknowledge that what he said might be a bit problematic, he does have the nerve to say what a lot of people are thinking, because I think today it's very difficult to reconcile support for Israel with the Democratic Party. I'll ask people a question.
But is that sort of like an ends justify the means kind of justification?
Does anyone at this table support the establishment of yet another homophobic, misogynistic, Muslim-majority tyranny on the fringes of Tel Aviv? Does anyone support that?
What are you even talking about?
Your question makes no sense. A Palestinian state. Do you support that?
The question itself is an incitement. Your question itself.
No. Do you think it will be anything else? Would you think a Palestinian state will be anything else but a homophobic, misogynistic, Muslim-majority tyranny?
Exactly. I think we do need to
We're here to discuss the question of whether President Trump was proper in his statements, and he was not.
No, but you're missing the substance.
You're changing the subject.
No, it's exactly the substance, because the substance is the Democratic Party strongly supports these two congresswomen who came here, and they were supported because Israel didn't allow them to have
American policy since George Bush to have a two-state solution. So don't throw everything on the Democratic Party today. If you don't like the Palestinian state, we talk about it. It's not the issue.
It's exactly the issue.
You're trying to steal the entire debate. We came here to discuss whether or not President Trump was proper in his statement about whether anyone votes for any Jewish Democrat is either ignorant or disloyal, whatever that means. What President Trump did, he's doing two things. Number one, let's face it, the Democratic Party is overwhelmingly against Trump, and in favor of Israel. Overwhelmingly, 79%, which is in 2018 voted Democratic, as opposed to a lower number in 2016, which means they are against Trump and pro-democratic. What he said was any Jewish Democrat is either stupid or disloyal. I resent both of those bullying, name-calling tactics. You can be a Jewish Democrat and not be stupid or to be disloyal.
But you are ignoring the fact that the Democratic Party supported these two people. These two just a second.
What?
These two
Yes.
just a second.
Not their position
Just a
about
second.
not their position on BDS, but their right to take a
The
position.
Democratic Party does have
Okay,
let's clarify
so the
this.
Democratic Party supported the right to take a position of anti-Semitism, BDS, anti-Israel, and that the whole Democratic Party supported it. And when
They
you
did
are,
not.
and
That is
when,
wrong.
just a
That's
second,
wrong.
just a
That's wrong.
second,
Your
just a
premise is wrong.
second,
Stuff.
just a
That's wrong.
second, and when you support the Democratic Party decision on that, and that's what Trump remarked about, he said, if the Democratic Party is backing up these two congresswomen,
That
and
means the
then
entire Democratic Party is in favor of BDS? No.
No, the
it's
choice,
wrong. It's
That they're
actually
against
wrong.
Israel?
the
No.
choice of the Democratic Party to back up anti-Semitism should make a big and strong wake-up call to
Democratic
every
Party
Jew who supports
is
the Democratic
100%
Party.
against anti-Semitism.
No, apparently not.
98%.
Apparently not.
Two women.
Apparently
Why,
not.
so why didn't they
No.
pass a resolution that was going to specifically?
They did.
No,
They
they
did.
didn't.
Anti-BDS
They didn't.
resolution.
They
They
didn't.
passed
They
a
blurred the
resolution,
whole thing.
anti-hate. They
They
totally
blurred the whole
passed it.
thing. Yeah, it wasn't what was supposed to be specifically targeting anti-Semitism.
So you're going
And
to
what-
criticize the Democratic Party for being anti-all hate and not being anti-specifically only Jewish hate? That's what you're saying.
No,
You're saying that
what
the
I'm
You
saying-
are doing the
resolution-
same thing Trump is
the
by
resolution-
painting the Democratic Party
The Democratic
as
Party is
anti-Semitic,
painting
which
itself.
is not, as being pro-BDS,
So
which
hold
is
on.
not.
So let's move a little bit.
Yes.
Let's move on a little bit to kind of the basis behind this whole thing. Let's go back a little bit. Because I feel like we've fallen into a sort of trap where this whole thing was, it seems, orchestrated in a sense, where the two congresswomen had a itinerary that did not include meeting with any Israeli officials. They didn't, nor did Ilan Omar, even though later she claimed to have an itinerary that was a little bit earlier than Rashida Tlaib's. She did not produce that itinerary, to my knowledge. Beyond that, it seems very. It
refusal
seems
to see your grandmother, who just tears the mask off the whole thing.
well. So that's it. So there seems to be a willing ignorance of, or rather repudiation of the original trip that many Democrats took just 2 weeks prior. And then later this whole fiasco occurs. So is that sort of, it feels like a trap. Would you not agree?
Well, look, there is a law in the state of Israel that people who support PDS are barred.
Correct.
Everyone knows that law. The two women
And it's
knew the
been
law
used-
too, and they did it in order to try to embarrass the state of
So
Israel.
you don't
But
support
they
their
were-
action?
What?
You don't support their actions?
I
Ilan
personally?
Omar, you don't support.
Which action are you talking about?
The trap that they put into Israel and their decision to come to Israel and to boycott anyone in Israel.
Me personally,
Yeah, you don't support it.
I personally do not support.
But the Democratic Party supports it.
I don't support her.
But the Democratic Party supported them. So the question is, what do you think you should do as a Democrat when your party
against-
supports this kind of BDS anti-Semitism?
Let's understand.
Every single,
There is a
every single
problem.
country,
There
every
is
single
a-
country has the right to bar persona non grata.
Right.
And so when Israel perhaps belatedly asserted that right, why did the Democratic Party line up against it? Why even AIPAC? I bet you AIPAC would never invite either Tlaib or Amal to address their annual conference. So if they
They did.
They did. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're off on that. Omar was at the last thing. She insulted them. She said anti-Semitic remarks and later apologized. Okay? So there is a problem. And the real serious problem is, and what worries me as a Democrat, I've been a lifelong Democrat. I've supported it as an official for nearly 3 decades. It's bothering me. There is a trend in the Democratic Party, led by people like Bernie Sanders and now encouraged by the squad, these two and 2 other women, who are showing signs of being anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian, etc. This is a political position. It is legitimate political position,
not.
and legitimate political positions can be opposed by other legitimate political positions.
Anti-Semitism is
And
not
I wanna-
legitimate. I'm
who's-
sorry.
I'm
The
not
media
saying
is-
anti-Semitism.
I
Well, but the
I'm
media-
saying
the
to be
media-
pro-Palestinian is a proper political
well-
position, just as being pro-Israeli is a
well-
proper political
Well,
position.
unfortunately, that is the time that we have. I apologize, but thank you all so much for coming in once again. Hopefully, we'll get to talk about this another day. Thank you.